Well, Ms. Brittnee, I really appreciate you being back on. It's been quite some time since the last one. I think like a year ago
Yeah.
that you've been on, and a lot has changed.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll actually steer in that direction first. Just catching up process. So how have you been?
I've been good. Got engaged. I don't know if I was engaged whenever
I think you two were dating.
yeah. So I've gotten engaged since then. I had a whole person.
Oh my
since
goodness,
then.
a
I had
person.
A whole little baby. And he's 4 months old now. I mean, that's been through jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I got let go from one job.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, while I was pregnant, 6 months pregnant, just because there wasn't a position available.
Oh my goodness.
But there was a couple of months where it was really hard on us because I didn't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got hired at like 9 months pregnant. But I mean, it worked.
They put you on layaway. They're like, we're gonna hire you, but you'll come back.
They did. They hired me, and I worked there a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went on maternity leave, and I only took 8 weeks. And then I went back and worked there, and I'm actually, my last day there was Thursday, and they were amazing. And I'm going back to managing at the same, I guess, business that I was before. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, that's exciting. A lot to unpack, actually. So this is going to be our Martin and Gina series. That is a relationship series where I tried to get different perspective from either women or men and try to build the perfect relationship. Even though that will never be possible, we can gain different qualities and different ways of loving somebody. So, shit. I mean, I guess your story is true love. I mean, not true love, but what love looks like. I mean, you date someone, you get engaged, and start a family. Yes,
Yeah.
you were a mom previously, but now your family is complete.
Yeah.
You know, in the
Yeah.
it don't matter.
Dynamic?
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go. A lot of weed before this podcast, guys.
Yeah.
But what was it like for you dating as a mom? Because I was talking to someone yesterday, and I was telling her that it's really difficult trying to find somebody as genuine to come into your life and accept you for all of you, especially with the children, if there is any, or just what people like to call baggage.
Yeah.
So when you first got into a relationship, how was that trying to navigate through that time with a new person?
So, I think something that really, really helped was the fact that we were friends beforehand. And we were friends to the point where, like, our friend group, Christian, my oldest son, would be around them already. So he already knew of JB, and JB already knew of him. And they got to hang out just in, like, a friend aspect. And then, but we'll say, like, before JB, right? So dating and being a mom was like really hard, and I know I joke about it on stage, saying you gotta kind of juggle being a presentable mom and being a hoe.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's hard.
It is.
It's hard.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody, and they were like, "Man, we know this girl who has OnlyFans," and she was like, "Man, she don't post her kids anymore." And I was like, "I wouldn't expect her to." It's bad for business.
Right, yeah. You don't, I mean, you just have separate social medias, one for hoeing and one for momming.
For sure.
It's fine.
As you should.
Yeah.
Bluey on one and so
Blue on one and OnlyFans on the other.
Of course.
That's what we got. But I would date, I would date and things like that, but it was very much, like, I didn't really have anything in mind to, like, settle down just because I had been burned in the past. So, for example, I dated this guy, and he broke it off because I had a son. I had Christian. And then he came back a couple months later, and he was like, I won't do that again. I really want to try. And we were in a relationship for a year. And then he broke up with me again because I had Christian. A year later. So, the shit like that would happen all the time. So then I just got to the point where I kind of just knew that I was hoeing. And but anytime that I was dating someone for a while, I would wait at least 6 months to introduce them to Christian or anything like that. So it only happened like twice.
For sure.
And then, like I said, I met JB, but we were friends beforehand, and I had no intention of dating JB. And so I think that actually really helped with the dynamic between us all, because JB got to know Christian with like a no pressure type of situation,
right? And
Christian got to do the same and connect with someone like that. So yeah, it's crazy. I would definitely say taking it slow was the best part, and being friends with that person without any kind of romantic ultimatum, or what do you call that? A romantic like background.
For sure. Yeah, and I noticed in my own personal life where even though some people are in a position where they think they're ready for a relationship, once you start to understand that a lot comes with it, especially with the other person, that friend relationship really is, to me, beneficial, because now you get to see them. We hear the thing about seeing them in different seasons of their lives. And I was like, well, how can you do that? And it's easy. Just be friends first. Be friends for a long period of time. I tell people, love is not, there's no instruction on how to love somebody. And I feel like as individuals, we should have a blueprint of our own version of love and stick to that. Who can say that we're wrong if we want to be friends for 2 years, 3 years, and build that type of bond to where when it is a relationship, it's different, but it doesn't feel different. It feels mature. It's
built on something.
For sure. So what was that like for you now deciding, like, or actually, who made the first move on wanting to date who?
Oh, JB for sure. It was, so, again, whenever we met, I had no intentions of dating him.
Right.
But I found out later that he wholly had intentions of dating me. So we actually met at Cheers, and we first talked on Castro's podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the first time. So our meeting is out there somewhere on Castro's podcast.
Shout out to him.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy. And so, me just talking to, like, as a friend or whatever, the first thing I ever said to him was, it was about a joke that he made when we were riffing. And I was like, I really would have, he got peanut butter or something like that, the word peanut butter. And I was like, I would have talked about, like, dick peanut butter, like dick cheese peanut butter.
Yeah.
Is that my dishwasher in the back? Sorry, guys. My place is filthy. There's my cat.
What's up, cat?
But I guess he had decided she will be mine.
Right.
Like, that was what he said to himself. And so he just bide his time and things like that. But it was definitely JB.
Yeah. And that's wonderful, because it takes a true, like, man, in my opinion, to give somebody that type of time. Because I'm in a position now where the other person is healing. And the mature me wants to be like, I understand. But the immature me is like, is it something I did? Is it? And we can't do that, because now you are fucking up the image that this person is seeing you as. Regardless if, I was a certain type of man for this person for a long period of time, I have to stay that through that hard time. And for him to have that attitude of she's going to be mine, but still treated you as you right, as you are supposed to be treated, I think that's a big thing that a lot of men should start to cling on to. Because I notice in my experience, I can be very, very selfish. And women, in my experience, are selfless. Like, I've had some people do the most for me, but when it came to me to show that type of love back, even though if it wasn't like knowingly doing it, I would be like, oh, why are you hanging out with so and so? And blah blah blah, like all this extra
Yeah.
shit. So when you started to get the idea that he wanted you, what was that like for you? Because friends is one thing, but a relationship is a whole nother thing, regardless if we work on it or not. And some people just don't want to lose that relationship as friends.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you, taking that next step?
It was scary. It was scary, but there's one moment that he did something that it really just, like, it still took a couple of months, maybe about a month after that, but, like, I was like, okay, like, he doesn't just, like, want a piece of ass or anything like that. I'm not just gonna be like a trophy or a notch in his belt in the comedy scene or something like that. I have bipolar disorder, and with that comes like severe depression, and it's usually around this time I will dip into a really deep depression for a couple months on end, and like I won't leave the house and I won't talk to anybody, and like this couch is like where I am all the time. And so during the time where he was trying to shift it from friends to more than friends, I was in one of those situations, and I didn't really want to talk on the phone, I didn't want to text, and he didn't like blow me up over that, why aren't you talking to me anymore or anything like that. It's so fucking sweet. He got an anxiety weighted blanket. He bought one of those, and he brought it to my doorstep, and he just left it there. He didn't knock, he didn't call, he didn't text. He just left it there with a note. And then, so I didn't have to feel like I had to open the door. And then after he had already left, he sent a text and he said, "I left you something." And then I opened it, and it was just an anxiety blanket to help me with my depression, because he knew that I didn't want company or wanted to be talked to or anything. And just like that, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
He's different.
Yeah, he's different.
and that's the thing with this podcast that I want to be out there is small things like that. Enjoy the little things, as they may say, but it's hard, especially so in my experience with relationships. I only had one girlfriend, and she ended up cheating on me. I don't know if we talked about that last time, but all that fun stuff happened, and now I found this other woman through a poetry night, and and really, really sweet woman. But there has been things in her past that is like recent, and it just got overwhelming. And for me, trying to navigate, like I said earlier, with my maturity and insecurities, it's like, okay, I'm so and so much older than this woman. I have to act accordingly, regardless if she don't want to talk on the phone or don't even want to see me. I feel like she gave me enough reassurance to be like, yo, let me chill for a little bit, and then we'll see what happens. Yeah. And it's I don't know. Sometimes I get tongue tied with like love like this, because I know it's possible, but it's just how do we even begin to like shave off what we used to know and how we used to feel and accept something different?
Well, I'll tell you that I feel like maybe the position you're in is the exact position that JB and I were in, because I was in a relationship previous to him, like very shortly, maybe, hey O'Malley, maybe just a couple of months in between, and we knew each other. I'm gonna keep my eye on her. We knew each other while I was dating this other person, and that's whenever we were friends. And I needed time between that, because I broke it off with my other significant other because there wasn't any love there. For sure. Like we were together for a while, but like he didn't love me, and he did a lot of things to break my trust, and that was really hard for me. And then I had JB on the other hand, who just wanted to love me. Yeah. He just wanted to be there, but I had made the decision that I didn't feel like it was fair for me to go into a relationship with JB still having confusion in my heart about the other person.
It sounds exactly
Yeah.
like what I'm going through. This is how life works, everyone.
Yeah.
And start talking to people, because the best therapy is the ones you don't have to pay for.
Yeah.
And don't talk to men about like advice like this. Like you can talk to men like JB, but I feel like women will give it to you from of course, the position of a woman. And that's why I always try to have a lot of women on, because I ask people, like, show me how to love you. Show everyone how you want to be loved. And once we start seeing women as more as just like the trophy or a notch in the belt, we start to understand like the companionship and the importance of that significant other starts to manifest. And that's really dope that you understood that because of who this man is and the respect you had for him, it wouldn't have been fair.
Right.
Because now you are bringing in that old stuff. And maybe he needs to be on the podcast as well, because it would be great conversation to understand how he did it, because I'm still struggling with it.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, even
he would love that. Yeah.
And I try not to struggle with these things, but it's hard not to.
Well, it's because we're human, and we have what's called, so I learned this a long time ago, we have what's called rackets or stories. And what that is basically stories that we tell ourselves because of different experiences we've had in our life. So, for example, if someone said, why are you doing that? Right? Just why are you doing that? Mm-hmm. But in my past, I had an ex-boyfriend say, why are you doing that? You're so stupid. I don't understand why you would ever do that. But the next person said, why are you doing that? I'm immediately going to have a story I'm telling myself. It's like, oh, he thinks that I'm stupid. He thinks that I'm an idiot. He thinks this. Because my mind has built this racket around that phrase or that tone or something like that. Mm-hmm. And we really need to just kind of wipe that clean and start fresh, because we are, if not anything, we are just the makeup of our experiences.
For sure.
And so then instead of listening to those stories, just asking, hey, when you say I don't have to do that, can you explain to me why I don't? And it's just asking at that point. Mm-hmm. And then, which is a lot harder. It's easier said than done, right?
Right.
But once we erase those stories and we actually start opening up the dialogue of just asking rather than just assuming, and even just like the taking the space thing, I ended up, because I knew that JB was taking it hard, and so I opened up and I said, hey, this is exactly how I'm feeling. This is how much time I'm going to need, and this is why I need this time. Mm-hmm. And then I felt like it did ease him some, because he wasn't wondering why or if I was leading him on.
For sure. And
so I think just as a society, those stories and rackets are just things that we have to learn to quiet by asking more questions.
And is that what you did, was to ask more questions, or did it take you a while to like navigate into how you want to handle it? Once you got into the relationship with JB, and he would probably say some things that would trigger these rackets. Yeah,
I am now, now that I'm older, I am much better at asking questions. I'm also really in tune with his little attitudes and his little, idiosyncrasy things.
Yeah, she'd know you better than you know you.
And so, like, if his, this sounds so crazy, but if his, the girls know what I'm talking about. If his breathing pattern changes, I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, what? I was like, you changed your breathing. What's wrong?
Yeah.
And then he says to, and he thinks about it. He's like, I guess I'm feeling a little anxious. And I'm like, let's talk about it.
Yeah. That's dope. And I feel like, to me, that's the most important thing that we can look for in a partner, is that understanding, or that familiarity.
Yeah, familiarity.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
You know the person,
yeah.
Okay? And as a man, I think that's something that men want, is that person to calm that storm.
Yeah.
Like an anxiety or anxious or an anxiety attack, that, as you probably know, is the most terrifying thing because thousands of different thoughts, feelings are happening at once. And for somebody to look at you and be like, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And it goes away. Regardless if there's still lingering effects, I know that now I am safe here. And
yeah. And not even either, and this is big too, is not like asking to talk about it with the intention of solving their problem, but to listen. And then asking them, hey, do you just want to vent about this? And do you just want to get it off your chest and us talk through it? Or do you want me to help you find solutions?
Right.
Because sometimes people don't, women don't want solutions. We want to figure it out ourselves.
Right.
But we do like to talk about it and vent about it. But yeah, just like I ask questions. And I would like to think that I'm teaching JB to ask questions, because I was alone for a really long time. I was one of those people that I did not need to be in a relationship, and I really liked being by myself. JB had been alone for a little bit, but he had like a 6-year-long relationship, and from what I gather, it wasn't super like awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think mine ended like at 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
And so he had stories and rackets and things like that we had to like work through, and he came to learn to trust my word, and like if I say something, that's what I mean by saying it. And so we've had to have those discussions and have grown like that, and then just even have had discussions like which is really important. If one of us gets mad, if one of us gets mad, and we like need to leave, to like walk out and take a breath or something, or even just to walk, because that could be like an avoidance or whatever. And so if someone is an avoider and they walk out, but the other person has been abandoned before, that's not going to make for like a great communication once he comes back in, right?
Right.
And so that has happened before. And we sat down and we had a conversation, and I said, if you're going to go take a breath, can you let me know before you go that you're going to take a breath, and this is how long I should expect you to be gone? And I explained why, not just make the request, but I said, because in my past, I have had people leave me because they were angry and never come back. And so even though like my logical mind is like, that's not going to happen, like that inner child of mine or that inner teen, they don't believe that. And so it makes me panic, and it doesn't make me feel good. And we agreed like that's something that we're going to do, and I'll do the same. That way it's still a safe place, but open for safe conflict.
For sure. Yeah, and when I first started to get this series going, I asked people for like different relationship advice, and mine was like fight fair. And like you said, we're all gonna have conflict, we're all gonna have time where we need space, but make it to where it's like meaningful.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're going to be upset, but maybe next week or a month from now, this little thing probably won't hurt us as bad because we know how to navigate through it, because we're not intentionally hurting people. I'm not leaving to hurt you or to make you feel abandoned, and you're not like keeping me here to be clingy.
Yeah.
We just had to understand what is what and how we can figure it out. And I tell people all the time, it's like, find out what your person loves. You know, like if you give them all of you, then now, especially if you are dating somebody who loves hard, if you just show them what they're looking for, the amount of love that's going to be received will be something that you've never, experienced before.
Yeah.
And once we get those like childhood or teenage traumas under control, then we start to be like, okay, I can now take control and be in control of my own life and my own love. And once that person reciprocates that, then I understand where this is going to go.
Yeah.
So once you guys first started to date, was it, I mean, of course we had those challenges before, but did you guys have like a honeymoon phase, or was it just?
No, not really, because he was in Chicago.
Okay. Long distance or not long distance.
Yeah, like right
relationships.
when we started. Yeah, he had moved to Chicago, and just because he had kind of like actually settled into the idea that we weren't going to be together, and so he was ready for his next step. So he went to Chicago, which actually ended up being kind of like a I was taking my time and stuff like that. So this was a really big leap of faith and a really big risk for me, because I am not necessarily a risk taker when it comes to my heart. And I found out that he was going to leave for Chicago, and I was like I had a mini freak out. I was like, oh my God, no.
Was it like a movie scene? You're running down the aisle of the airport.
I mean, it could have basically, yeah. Because I was like, I understand that you're leaving, but I don't want to lose you. And I asked him to be my boyfriend. And he was like, what? And he was like, I gotta think about it, which hurt my feelings, like, really bad.
Right.
I was like, what the fuck do you mean you gotta think about it?
I'm me. That's funny.
But it was like he thought about it for like 2 hours. And
'cause that's when his plane left. Was it too? He was like, oh, I still can make it.
yeah, I mean, but we did get to we did date for about a month before he left to Chicago, and then he was in Chicago for quite a few months, and that was hard. That was really hard for both of us. We were having to communicate really well in between that time. But then he came back, and whenever he came back, he just moved in.
Yeah.
So like 5-6 months in, he just moved into the apartment. That's what we've been doing. This month will be it's our 2-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
So, yeah, thank you. And once he got here, then it was the honeymoon stage.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's exciting. I mean, shit, you had a baby, so honeymoon activated.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, a lot of people go through challenges, especially with pregnancy. Is it his first child?
It's his first child, yes.
So, in my experience, I know that unknowingly to me, like, I gained so much weight. And I was still trying to figure out what type of man I wanted to be. Even when my son was born, it took me a year to finally figure out, like, okay, I want to start losing weight. I want to start podcasting, like, as a career. Was it difficult for you two in a relationship to now bring a life into this and still have, like, dreams and things you want to do?
Damn. It wasn't hard to bring Asher, like, into the world, because I've always wanted another child.
Okay.
And he, before he met me, was just kind of content in the fact that he would never have kids and he would never get married. And that's just the way that it was, because he felt like he was too far along in his life to find those things. So he was ecstatic. And he loves being a dad. He loves being a stepdad. So, and then in regards to, like, still following our dreams, I'm the one working through it, really. Like, I'm having a hard time balancing things for myself. And that is because you said women are selfless, and it's because I am trying to make sure that he feels happy and that JB feels content and that he feels like he's he doesn't have to give up his dreams and stuff. And honestly, now, like, I'm saying it, and I've known that kind of could be a trauma response for myself. Like, what if he resents it, and what if this isn't what he really wanted, and things like that. So I kind of push myself even more to make sure that he's, like, happy, which then makes me resentful because I want to be able to go out and do something.
For sure.
But he lets me. Like, he's like, do it.
Yeah.
He tells me to do it, and it's just something that I have to get through.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, and I was talking with my cousin yesterday, and I was showing her this music video where this guy was upset with his friend because the friend was more successful, and he started making up illogical things, like things that were not true.
Yeah.
And I can see that in like different relationships, especially when the woman is giving her all. There's going to be times where it's like, oh, well, why can't you? I mean, not in your relationship, but like, why can't you show me that same type of love, or why don't you love me that way? And from a man's perspective, we think you're content. Like, we think you're okay with, oh no, babe, go out and go to the comedy or go do a podcast, and the whole time you're hurting inside.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, like, I want to get to a point to where I'm so successful that my partner can now chase her dreams.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be the type of man that both of us have to work, because I don't feel like you should work. I feel like you should have everything that you want, because if I can give that to you, now you can give whatever I'm looking for. Like, if we want to go on a vacation, we can. You know, if we want to do so and so, we can, because now I have a partner that is satisfied. She is happy, and in turn, like everybody said, well, if mom's not happy, nobody's happy.
Yeah.
And that's true. Like, yeah, dad is supposed to be the leader or whatever, but mom makes it a home.
Creates the culture.
Right. Mom makes it a family. She does everything. And I feel like with him saying, hey, be a woman, go do that.
Yeah.
You know, shit that Brittnee is supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And he gets excited for me when I finally do plan something. I mean, like, since Asher's been born, I think I've gone out 3 times.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And it's just because, and I think that a lot of moms might resonate with it, especially whenever their baby is quite new, is that you just feel like it's all your responsibility. Like, I feel like it's all my responsibility, and other people are just helping me. And I know that that's not true. Like, again, my logical brain knows that that's not true. And it's just something that I have to work through. But he's great about encouraging me to go out and take time for myself and be with other people and things like that. And so I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
So has there been a time in yours and JB relationship to where you truly had to not fight for the relationship, but fight for understanding in an argument or just a disagreement that you two had? Because, of course, everything is not all sunshine and rainbows, and we have to fight for love. A lot of people don't fight for love anymore.
Well, and then those fights, like we said, like, there's conflict isn't a bad thing. Those arguments or those fights are meant to just be a one-time thing that you build upon it, and you don't ever have to have that fight again, because you get to learn each other's language at that point. We've only had one really bad fight, and that was when he was in Chicago. And I think just tensions were just high because it was new, and we were supposed to be in the honeymoon phase, and it wasn't. And honestly, in that time, I guess I have the avoidance behavior, because if I'm done with something, I just, like, I'm done. Like, that's it. And I'll never talk about it again. And, like, it's fucking cold. I can be a cruel, cold bitch.
They ask me about, they be like, hey, you know this person? Never knew this man in my life.
Never seen him. What's that?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Man.
And that's where I was after this fight. I was so mad, and I was so hurt, and it was just it was just him learning from his own past. But I was, like, really angry, and I was about to be like, go fuck yourself.
Right.
But we talked through it, because that was me growing, and I was like, okay, I know that he said this thing because that's a story he has because of something that happened in his past. So I have 2 decisions. I can either, 1, be like, it's your problems, deal with it, and then move on. Or we can talk it through, and we can find where that came from and make sure that it never happens again.
For sure.
And so we decided to do the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. And I tell people all the time, like, even though I haven't been in an official second relationship, I tell people to love hard in every relationship. Doesn't mean there should be boundaries and walls that need to be in place so that certain things don't happen. But give the person your all, because you don't want to miss out on a quality that is beneficial to both of you because you have those distancing issues.
Yeah.
You know, like, all because there's a wall there doesn't mean it's not a fence. I can't see through it. I still can, like, yes, be comfortable with your heart, not comfortable, but be protective of your heart, but also let it be known that you want to be loved and you want to love somebody else.
Yeah.
So for people who are in a position to where it's new to them, growing, or actually, hold on, let me rephrase this question. What would you give to somebody that is going into a relationship that wants to ask questions or want to be a couple that works through their problems, but it's new to them?
Really, it's to take it slow. I mean, you can have all the passion and all the fire that you want, but if you don't feed it with something substantial, it'll burn out. And so take it slow and get to know one another, really in regards to, honestly, the traumas of the past. It's like, get to know what makes each other tick. And that way, whenever you find one of those triggers, you can empathize with that person because you know where it's coming from. Like, if someone has an avoidance trigger, you know that it's coming from this in their childhood or this in their past, so you can empathize with it, and you're not so quick to anger or dismissal. And that's from getting to know one another. And don't get me wrong, I love passion, I love fire, but you have to feed it.
Yeah.
You have to, or it'll just sizzle out, and that's that.
Yeah, I had a friend tell me that my kindness is a blessing and a curse. And I got upset because I don't feel like we should now look at something that makes us us and see it as a bad thing. All because I'm a nice person doesn't mean it's a bad thing it's a bad thing when I get taken advantage of. I just gave the kindness to the wrong people. And sometimes it gets tricky on who we should give that to. So in your opinion, what is the thin line between a work in progress in a relationship or a toxic relationship? Because this person can have these triggering objects and we continue to try to fight for it, but eventually it doesn't work out. But we want to be the person who continues to love on that person to show them something different.
Yeah.
So when do you be like, okay, this is not a work in progress, this is toxic at this point?
If after you've explained why something is important to you, and in that same argument or the next one, they say the phrase, I don't see why it's such a big deal. That alone. And it's just a fucking knife in the heart. Because you've explained why it was a big deal. And if they respond with that, or if they have that, I don't see why it's a big deal, they're never going to. They didn't care enough to listen the first time whenever you're pouring your heart out, and they're not going to. So they're not ready to grow.
Yeah.
And they're not ready to accept the work that goes into growing with you. So that would be a line for me.
Beautiful. Well, that's really all the questions I had. I really had this conversation or this topic to help me. I'm selfish. Oh, God. No, I need different relationship advice because I am struggling out here. But no, I mean, I really appreciate you talking with me. It's good seeing the happiness that is in your life now. Because
thank you.
I remember our first conversation. You were like, still doing comedy, some burlesque here and there. And now it's like mom of two, wife now. And it's just really exciting to see what love can be.
Yeah.
And I mean, even with success, I'm like, eventually something will happen. if you continue to fight for it, if you continue to put things in place to where you're now meeting people at your level, because sometimes we can be at level 5 and want women 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work out. And then we start to emotionally get knocked down a notch. Like, we'll still be successful, but mentally and emotionally, we're poor.
Right. And because you've heard that saying where if you want to grow, you surround yourself with people at the same level or higher than you. That way you're constantly trying to achieve more and grow more and things like that. Because if not, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? Because if not, then you'll become stagnant, and that's how people get stuck in like 5-10 year long relationships without any movement forward,
right? Because
they're just content on the mediocre. Not saying that like being in a relationship for 10 years is like a bad thing as long as you are happy and in love. But if you're just coming home every day and you're like, oh, well, this is it.
Right.
It doesn't have to be it. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah. Love yourself. Figure out what type of individual you want to be. And that's what I tell people all the time. It's like, I've been with myself 25 years.
Yes.
I just started to know what type of man I wanted to be a year ago, and 2 years ago.
And it'll change again in
for sure.
5 years.
Yeah. And that's why I tell people, like, I'm trying to chase the most successful version of myself. Yeah. I will never get there because I want to continue to grow. But with that continuation of growth, who's to say I won't be, in other people's minds, the best person ever?
Yeah.
But to me, it's like, I'm normal. Like, losing all this weight, people say, oh, you're an inspiration. I just do what made me happy. I did what I told myself I was going to do. To me, it's not an inspiration. It's just, I don't know.
And as I've seen like your progress through like social media and stuff, the way you address yourself from the first time like I met you to now, even just in the posts, is more in a loving and positive light. For sure. And so I'm about to say something that some people have said is like, what's the word? Cold and kind of bitchy, but it's how I protect like my life, right? It's how I protect the people in there. So protect my peace. And so I've said this to JB before, and I've had to explain what I meant because he was like, "Oh my God, that sounds so mean." But because I was alone for so long, and I was by just me and Christian, of course, but just me, I grew to, I wouldn't necessarily say love myself, but respect myself enough to require certain things. For sure. And because, struggling with depression, love yourself sometimes, I have a podcast. 2-hour podcast with this lady who had depression, bipolar disorder. Yeah? You should watch it. It's really good. Okay, I will, for sure. It was sad as fuck. I was like, woman. That's our life. Yeah, she was like, your happy moment is like my depressed moment. And I'm like, and your sad moment is like my despair. And I was like, it's literally. God dang. No, like literally. I've tried to explain that to someone. I said, because I try to come across as kind of like numb, but the reason is if I let the floodgates open on my feelings, and that's actually something I told JB before we got in a relationship. I said, if you want me to feel around you, you have to accept all of it. With me having bipolar disorder, I said, you have to accept all of it. That means my extreme highs and my extreme lows. And I explained, like, there is, like, normal people's emotions are like here and here. People with bipolar disorders, our emotions are like here and here, like off the screen. No really in between. But I told him, I said, if I'm going to let or allow people in my life, even friends, that relationship is not transactional. It's not like, so say I love JB. I don't love JB because he gives me things. I don't love JB because he necessarily makes me feel safe or anything, which he does all those things. I love JB because of the person that he is, and it brings joy to my life. And he provides something to my life I wouldn't be able to have on my own.
Yeah.
If at any point he consistently took away from my life rather than adding to it, then that would be a point where it wouldn't be healthy for me to continue that relationship. And that's how I feel about friends too. It's not necessarily a transactional relationship, but if you're not adding something positive to my life that I would not be able to get on my own,
Right.
and if at any point you switch and start removing things from me, from my life, that's not healthy, and I'm going to cut off that relationship. And he was like, oh my God, that's so fucked up. That's cold. And I'm like, but it's not, because I would expect anyone to do the same for me. If I'm not bringing you joy and I'm keeping you stagnant or I'm taking away from you, I'm not good for you.
Right.
And I said, I don't think that it's unfair to feel that way. It might sound cold to people, but that's how you keep growing.
Yeah.
And that's how you keep yourself safe.
Well, even Kevin Gates was like, man, I don't hate you. I'm just releasing you with kindness. I'm releasing you with love.
I like that.
I'm just releasing you with love. I don't want to talk to you no more, but I don't hate you.
Yeah. If I have to be around you and you constantly stress me out, it's not the vibe for me.
Right. But I think what scares me is you can, well, in my mind, be the perfect person for somebody, show them something different. And to me, it's like, what if they still don't want it? You know? And it scares me to be like, what if nobody truly wants what I have to offer? And yes, that's not true. There's billions of people in the world. I even had this conversation with somebody else. But we limit ourselves to just Tulsa or just Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And we start to have these insecurities. Was there a point like that for you to be like, man, nobody really will want me? And if you did feel that way, how'd you get over it? Because with me, I try to tell myself, like, bro, you're dope as fuck. Look at look at all you're doing. Look at all that you've accomplished. Like, I don't have a roommate, been at my apartment for 5 years, paid off my car, paid off my phone, got a new car, new phone. Like, everything that I'm doing, I have to remind myself that men are not doing this for real.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people don't have half or even a taste of what you have. So if you have to feel this way, understand that it's temporary, and what you did to get to this point is the only thing that will last.
Yeah. I've had feelings similar to that. So you kind of know, like, my vibe, not my at home vibe, but you know my vibe. Like, whenever I'm like in the scene, in the comedy scene, my concern was that people would only want me for my looks, or like to be able to say that they had me. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And that was always a fear of mine, is that no one would love me for my weirdness. No one would love me for my oddities. No one would love me or love me enough to deal with my mental health issues. That was the biggest. Like, no one would love me enough to deal with my intense highs or intense lows, or love me not, like, falling off of my medication bandwagon and then having to restart it and things like that. And especially with that, I had to be careful, because some people would use it as a manipulation tactic, like use my mental health against me, so that I would be kind of like, make me need them. You know what I mean? So narcissist.
Yeah.
And I just never thought anyone could love me how broken I was. And then someone like JB comes along, and he just does those small little things, knowing that I'm broken right now, or knowing that I was broken, and not necessarily trying to immediately fix me, but trying to find the pieces first. And trying to find all the pieces and gathering all the pieces together and waiting until I was ready to be fixed, and then slowly putting me back together one piece at a time. And not only that, but then finding beauty in the cracks. And knowing that he might continue to have to find little chips here and there and put it together. And that he doesn't resent me for it.
Yeah.
So there's a person out there for me that wants to do that. And then I find his broken pieces and do the same thing for him. And so there definitely are people out there for those situations, and that will absolutely love every little thing about you. All of the little things that you think are flaws, they're going to find just irresistible and adorable.
For sure.
So yeah, there's that.
Yeah, and people have to be very careful with that, because a lot of people are broken.
Yeah.
But they allow people to put pieces of themselves into other people.
Yes.
And to now you are thinking like, I'm lost without this person.
Yes.
Or I can't do anything because they brought me happiness. Understand from both parts, like men or women, if you are putting somebody back together, understand that it has to be them that you're putting back together, not who you see them as, the person that, or not, excuse me, not who you want them to be, but who they are.
Yeah.
So,
and that it's a big responsibility, and you're not just like bringing home an injured pet.
Right. No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And even if, and remembering that, like, even though he was fixing me, I'm still doing my part to fix things that are broken in him too. Because I don't think, because there's this big thing, it's like you have to not be broken, or you have to love yourself or be alone and stuff to be able to find someone, or to completely fix yourself before you can get in a relationship with someone else. And I don't think that that's true, because you're never going to be fully fixed.
Right.
You're never going to. But like you said, being careful and finding the person who truly wants to make you whole, but as just you, because they love you so much that they want you to be whole, even if they're not a part of it. And then that's the person. That's a person that you want to be with. And whenever you get two people like that,
forget about it.
Forget about it.
Well, I guess that's a wonderful thing to end on.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it any better, because I couldn't have said it any better. Well, again, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
For
I appreciate
sure.
it.
Let's not have it be a year again.
Yes, exactly.
Or probably more than a year. Anyway.
Yeah.
But guys, I hope you appreciated this episode. Continue to love hard. Continue to find people, even if it's not boyfriend and girlfriend. Find relationships that last. Find relationships. Yeah. I mean, in the comedy scene, in the podcast scene, wonderful people. I haven't met anybody who is mean. And like you said, surrounding yourself with those people, I want to be better. I don't want to be left behind, because I know how much we all worked for this. So from us to you all, may your pain be champagne, and have a great day.